The first thing I do is I go ahead and prepare the sides and the toppings. So this is going to be for the pico de gallo. I have some lime, half an onion, and any tomatoes of your choice. I add cilantro, but it's optional. And then I do garlic, onion, and then a little bit of salt. I like to blend it. You don't have to blend it. If you like it really chunky, you can make it chunky. So it'll look something like this, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and put my seasonings and my cilantro. I didn't use a whole 2 limes, I used a lime and a half. I'm gonna save the other half of the lime juice for later. For the seasonings, I just eyeball it. It's just about maybe 2 or 3 teaspoons of each one, and then I salt to taste. Now I'm going to make the lettuce. You can use any lettuce you have. I have spring mix because I was using it for salad. And then I'm just going to put some in a bowl. And I'm going to take that leftover lime juice and a little bit of salt and toss that around. You can also salt to taste, but I suggest salting lightly. Another topping I like to do is take an entire corn cob raw, and then I like to sprinkle a little bit of fajita seasoning. I have Southwest fajita, but it can be just regular fajita. Then I'm going to put it in this bowl and microwave it for 3 minutes. For the cheese, I use crumble cheese. Tastes really fresh and clean, but you can use shredded Monterey Jack cheese instead, or you can get this. It's called queso fresco. For the seasoning, I like to use Old El Paso taco seasoning. I get it in bulk from Sam's, but you can get the low sodium version from Walmart. Now we're gonna cook the meat all the way. Fully cooked, no seasoning, and we're going to drain it. I use 93% lean. You're going to add your entire pack of seasoning onto the meat, and then you're going to take your empty pack over to the sink, and you're going to fill it almost all the way up with water. I know it seems like a lot of water, but just trust me, you're going to want that water. See, that's not enough, so I'm going to add a little bit more. And then I'm just going to take that over and I'm going to put it in the meat, and then I'm going to mix it up. Your meat is going to look a little bit watery at first. You can go ahead and move your heat down to like a medium high and just let it simmer until it comes to like a thick, more pasty texture. So it should look like this when it's done. If you don't like it like this, you can add a little bit more water, or you can lessen the amount of seasoning when you start. For the tortillas, it is super important that you only use corn tortillas. They can be white or yellow, but they cannot be flour. They have to be corn tortillas. Any brand is fine. You're going to line a tray with tin foil and then put some paper towels on top for the shells to drain. I have a pretty wide pan here, so I'm using about half a cup of oil. I turn my heat to about a medium high. And then for reference, to show you just about how much oil your pan should have, this is a chopstick and it is barely covering the tip of the chopstick. We want enough oil to bounce the shells around in the pan, but we don't want so little that it's dry. Once you think your heat is high enough, you can go ahead and start testing it out by just dipping a shell in. I put mine in a little bit too early here. But you're gonna basically move that around a few times in circles, not too much. but you're waiting to see when the shell starts to bubble up in the center. There should be like air popping it up in the center, kind of like that. Then I'm just taking my tongs and I'm moving it so it doesn't stay too still. Once I start seeing these little airs, like air bubbles forming on my tortilla shell, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna fold it over. I'm gonna flip it over. And as you can see, it's pretty gold. It's gonna be gold on both sides. Don't worry about over frying them. If you happen to get one that's super crispy, they basically are just tortilla chips, so you can eat it with salsa. So I'm gonna go ahead and fold this over now and make a taco shape. And then I'm just gonna let that sit, not too long or it'll start to burn. They don't look like they're cooking as fast as they actually are, but you can go ahead and add a second one into the pan so you don't have to cook them so slow. And here I'm just folding over a second one, and by the time you do the second one, your first one is pretty much done. It's only slightly yellow gold. We're not looking for like extremely dark unless you want it more crunchy. So then I'm just gonna kind of TP it on top of the paper towels, and then I'm just gonna keep frying the rest of my shells. The shells are probably the most tricky part. You might want to turn your heat up or turn it down. It just depends on how quickly or how slowly they're frying. Yeah, like right here, you can kind of see it's a little bit too like flimsy, so I'm actually going to turn my heat up a little bit. And so everything should be looking done now and ready to make your tacos. I always like to do the toppings first just because then the meat and the shells are nice and fresh and hot.